Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of Outer Banks by Anne Rivers Siddons, narrated by Cecie Critt.
From the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back when the wind blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by sea girls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us, and we drown. Chapter 1. On the Outer Banks of North Carolina, there is a legend about the ships that have come to grief in the great autumn storms off those hungry shoals. Over the centuries there have been many. The banks have more than earned their reputation as the graveyard of the Atlantic. Most of the graves are in Diamond Shoals, just off the point of Cape Hatteras. But the entire 100-odd-mile sweep of coast has devoured its measure of wood and flesh. Myths and specters and apparitions lie as thick as sea fog over the banks. But the one that I have always remembered is the one Ginger Fowler told us all. Cecie, Fig, Paul Sibley, and me. The September of my last year in college, when we were visiting her between quarters. They say that whenever a ship is going to go down, you can hear something like singing in the wind, she said. Bankers say it's mermaids, calling the sailors. Lots of them claim to have heard it. It's not like wind or anything. They say when you hear it, you have no choice but to follow it, and you end up on the shoals. A few of the sailors who've been rescued swear to it. We were sitting on the front veranda of the Fowlers' house on the dunes on Nag's Head Beach, watching the twilight die over the Atlantic. On either side of us hulked the great black-weathered 2- and 3-story cottages that made up what the bankers called the unpainted aristocracy, a long line of huge, weather-stained wooden summer houses that had been built in the early days of the century by the very rich. When they were first built, the houses reigned alone on that lordly line of dunes, owning by sheer force majeure the wild, empty beach. Now they are surrounded by flea-like armies of bungalows and timeshares, and fishing piers, and umbrella and float rentals, like mastodons beset by pygmies. But even now, when you are on the front porches or verandas, you have no sense of the graceless idiot hordes nibbling at their skirts. Only of wind and sun and emptiness, and the endless sea. I remember that I felt a small frisson that might have been night wind on sunburned flesh, and reached for Paul's hand. He squeezed it, but didn't turn to look at me. He was looking intently at Ginger's sweet, snub face, stained red by the sun setting behind us over Roanoke Sound, and by the long golden days in the sun. Autumn on the Outer Banks is purely a sorcerer's spell, so clear you can see each grain of sand on the great dunes, and bathed in a light that is indescribable. We had stayed on the beach from dawn to sunset for the past 4 days, and all of us wore the stigmata on our cheeks and shoulders. But Ginger was the red-brown of cast bronze all over. The freckles on her broad cheekbones had merged in a copper mask, and her eyelashes and tow head had whitened. She looked like a piece of Mayan statuary, in her faded cotton bathing suit with the boy-cut legs, squat and abundant, and solid as the earth. I thought...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?